everyone. Welcome to the Semgrep Spring 2025 release webinar. We are really excited to be here with you. We have a ton of cool new features that we shipped this quarter, and we're excited to tell you about more of them. I am Jack Moxon. I'm a staff product manager here, and I'm joined by my colleague, Katie.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. My name's KK. I'm the product lead for supply chain at Semgrep.
Awesome. Well, we have a ton of features that we shipped this quarter, and we are really excited to highlight a few of them. We don't have time to go through everything, but we're going to spotlight a few of the really exciting features that we have shipped this quarter. And then we also have some material you can download after the fact to read more about all of the great things that we don't have time to cover today. We'll also share out the recording of this webinar that you can forward to other folks. So we've a couple themes that we want to focus on with our release today. One of them is big number go down. And you might ask me, what's the big number? The big number is the number of open findings in your backlog. We speak to lots of different AppSec teams, and it's a very common pattern where the ratio of AppSec to developers is extremely low, where maybe one AppSec engineer is supporting as many as 500 developers. And so you have a huge backlog to get through, but not a lot of folks that can actually triage and work on that. And there's two major ways that we help the big number go down. The first is we can help with noise reduction. What are findings that maybe exist in your applications, but are not actually exploitable? How do we help reduce that noise so you're not spending time as AppSec triaging findings that aren't real? And also, how do we make sure that we're not putting those in front of developers? And the second way we help the big number go down is actually getting things fixed. So we have a bunch of great features that we're going to highlight today around both of those areas. The first is Semgrep Assistant memories. And one thing that, as I mentioned before, is really essential for helping your big number of backlog findings go down is to eliminate false positives. That's the number one thing we hear about, people that get frustrated with existing SaaS solutions. There are a lot of false positives. And Semgrep Assistant is an AI AppSec engineer that will help reduce the number of false positives that your developers see and that live in your backlog. And it does a great job out of the box. But what we're really excited about with this release is this new concept called memories. And with memories, Assistant is now catching more than 85% of all the false positives that users are identifying without any intervention from the AppSec team or from developers. And this really helps the big number go down because when your developers trust that the findings you put in front of them are real, they're actually going to go and fix things. So the first place we're going to spotlight is memories. So as I log into the Semgrep dashboard here, we have a nice little handy chart here, which shows all the findings that are getting introduced in a given week. So we can look at last week, for example, and you can see that about 1,000 findings got introduced. Some have been fixed, others ignored. And you can see this segment here, which are called silent. These are findings that Assistant, our AI AppSec engineer, have reviewed and decided are likely mitigated in some way and therefore a false positive. Let's open up a finding and take a look at what Assistant is doing under the hood. So you can see very quickly right here, Assistant thinks this issue is a false positive and explains very clearly in one sentence here the reason for that. So this is a high severity, high confidence finding. It is a potential insecure deserialization risk. And you can see that the developer is actually sanitizing the untrusted input before the deserialization occurs, which mitigates the risk. And Assistant has identified that. If you come down here and you want to sort of double check what Assistant is doing, you can see lines 11 through 13, exactly what happened here. So Semgrep matched on line 13. You can see where the potentially untrusted data is getting set to pass through the pickle statement here. But we are actually using a sanitizer function to clean the data. And so the developer actually did the right thing here. No need to notify them or alert them. And so that's the power of Semgrep Assistant's ability to do triage on your behalf. Now, we already see tremendous results just out of the box with this. And we see that Assistant generally catches about 70% of all the false positives. But what memories allow you to do is catch even more false positives with some simple instructions that you can now explicitly give to the AppSec engineer. And the way I think about it is, if you hired a new AppSec engineer to do some triage for you, you would want to give them some knowledge about your organization, about your practices, and about your code base. Memories are basically the way you give the AI AppSec engineer that information. So you can see here, it's all about reducing noise and false positives. So we can already see here, over 5,000 likely false positives have been flagged and identified with memories. And the net result is here is how do we prevent developers from being interrupted with likely false positives? Now we can take a look at a particular memory. So here's a couple examples. One is listed here. So if we're passing untrusted input into a sensitive sink, it might be safe if the control flow is static and does not allow execution for dangerous code. So these are very simple instructions that you can give to the assistant when it is looking for potential false positives. There's a couple ways that you can add a memory. The first is explicitly. So you can come in, you can say, create a new memory. You get to decide on the scope. So you can choose if you want to scope to all projects or all rules. We're about to introduce a vulnerability class here as well. The other way that these get created is automatically. So if you are an AppSec engineer and you're doing routine triage and you see a false positive and you write a triage note, Assistant will actually do its best to turn that into a memory on your behalf. And this is actually one of the most powerful features because we're seeing with no intervention from humans, if you're just going about your day and doing some routine triage, Assistant is going to get smarter over time and identify more false positives and increase the signal to noise ratio for your developers. The final way that memories get created is through suggested memories. So in Semgrep, we allow developers to give feedback about any given finding. And so here's an example. One of our developers, Nitin, had in the PR comment listed his reason for why he thought this particular finding was a false positive. Assistant is looking for patterns in developer feedback like that and suggesting memories that the AppSec team could review. So it won't automatically create a memory, but the AppSec team can come in, can see the reasoning, can see the proposed memory, and they can go ahead and activate it if they think it's valuable. One thing that they can do, which is very powerful, is you can see the impact of a given memory here. So if I were to activate this memory on this org with this scope, we'll go from having 19 potential false positives to 615. And that's a big reduction in noise. So you can get a really good sense of what is going on here. So in the private beta, one of our Fortune 100 customers, I think, was able to reduce their SSRF backlog by about 50% with the addition of just a couple of memories. So we're really excited about the results here. We really think this is kind of the next iteration for SAST, is allowing AI to review findings and giving some coaching to the AI with memories. So that is the first feature we wanted to spotlight around AI. The second one is our Semgrep MCP server. So MCP is probably the most interesting 3 letters after AI right now. It stands for Model Context Protocol. And many developers these days are starting to use tools like Cursor or Windsurf to augment their ability to write code. And so the affectionate term for this has been vibe coding, where you can write in natural language instructions to an AI copilot, which will actually write code for you. This presents a challenge for security practitioners, though, because how do we make sure that security is represented with all of this new AI code that's about to be written? And so that's why we're really excited to release our Semgrep MCP server. So let's jump over to Cursor and do a quick demo over here. I'm going to switch to Cursor. Okay, so now in Cursor, which is one of several leading AI copilots for writing code, I'm going to go ahead and give it an instruction. So let's get this started. I'm asking it to create a Flask app that displays a web page that says secure vibe coding with Semgrep. And I've given some specific implementation details down here. And Cursor is going to go ahead and start writing some code for me. And those that are following along at home may already see a potential vulnerability that's been introduced. While this writes the code for me, you can see how easy it is to set up the Semgrep MCP server. This is something that your developers can set up. And then we allow you to give it a simple instruction. So this is a Cursor rule here. Whenever you generate code, scan it with Semgrep to ensure that it is secure. So as it's writing code on the right side here, you'll eventually see it run through something like a security check. So we can just give it a minute to do that. And here's the first one that has been called. So the way I think about the MCP server is basically we're giving AI copilots like Cursor, Semgrep as a tool. So you can actually run a Semgrep scan as you're doing development, which allows security teams to actually be kind of in the room with developers when they're doing vibe coding. And you can see here in the security check, we've already identified 2 potential security issues. You can read more about them. It has caught indeed that the debug flag has been set to true, which is insecure. But you can already see that now that the AI Copilot has this tool in its toolbox, it's already written a fix for me here. So I'm actually able to get secure code written while I'm doing vibe coding without any intervention from the developer, which makes everything just a lot easier, and it's a great environment. And with the focus on shifting left, we want to be living in the IDE with developers, and we want to say confidently that all the code has been scanned with Semgrep and is free of security issues. So that's vibe coding. I'm going to pass the baton back to Katie to talk about our next feature.
Thanks so much, Jack. Super exciting with AI kind of personalizing the results and being able to shift things all the way left. In terms of big number go down, I wanted to share what's new in supply chain on that front as well. So Semgrep has been known for our reachability analysis. Our reachability reduces noise by up to 98%. We cover the most reachability languages of any vendor with 10. We'll have an 11th, which is PHP, out for you guys within a week from now. And then Semgrep's reachability analysis is also goes one full level deeper into the code. So we're actually looking at not only if functions are called for function level reachability, but also how the function calls happen and how the function is used. So that's data flow reachability. And so the really exciting update, and I'll start sharing my screen to kind of show you guys as well, is that we're now extending that same reachability analysis to transitive dependencies. So the dependencies of your dependencies for JavaScript right now and for more languages coming soon, Semgrep can now recognize whether findings are unreachable. So while this might be a finding that you previously had to kind of manually triage, investigate, and find out was a false positive, Semgrep's now able to do that automatically. I'll actually hop over into the product for a second to show you what that looks like. So here we're looking at a vulnerability in the package handlebars, which is used in the front end of JavaScript, right? And handlebars we're seeing imported in a couple different places, both through a dependency via Istanbul, but through 2 actually root packages. And in both cases, we can see that this vulnerability in handlebars, while it does exist, is not reachable in the way that we are using these packages. And we've made that really clear up top here as well. This is not a reachable finding. This finding can be deprioritized. Go focus elsewhere on findings that actually are real. While we're in the product and talking about reachability, let me also show you a small but mighty update that we made to Semgrep this quarter, which is showing the smoking gun of function level reachability. So here we're looking at a vulnerability in the package, well, Django itself, which is a SQL injection issue. And then we're actually highlighting the exact specific function call that implies that this vulnerability does affect this code base. So here where we're calling model.annotate, that's where the SQL injection is possible. And that means that this actually is worth fixing. We've made that a lot more clear by highlighting in yellow here. Also made it a lot more clear in the developer experience, explaining that the vulnerabilities are reachable and why they are reachable, to build that trust between security and the application development team, that security is not crying wolf, security is asking development to fix real vulnerabilities. In addition to big number go down and all of our efforts to remove as many things that are not real from the backlog as possible, we've been investing in parallel in making it easier to scan. For a long time, Semgrep has been known for polyglot coverage, covering a lot of languages, but we're making it easier to scan even more things. When someone asks us about a sort of tertiary language or something like that and says, "Can you scan this thing?" we like to be able to say, "Yes, we scan." In Semgrep supply chain, we are scanning like never before in the form of malicious dependency detection. So here, when we say malicious dependencies, we mean malicious packages that are being used in your environment, things like malware, adware, spyware, leading to attacks like typo squatting, right? Where someone's taken over a package or maybe some versions of a package, and this code is designed to compromise your whole system. How this works is we actually added 30,000 advisories to Semgrep for known instances of malicious packages. And then we check against that long list and say, do you have any matches with these known issues? In the best case, this means that there are 30,000 problems that you don't have, right? Maybe it means that we find something for you that at least you're very glad that you knew about before it caused an even bigger incident for you. And this comes at no additional charge. It's included in the Semgrep supply chain product across a bunch of major ecosystems. It's also very easy to find these particular findings in Semgrep. They're in a separate filter on the findings details page. And because they generate critical findings, there's no additional configuration required to integrate them with your workflows. Also, in terms of scanning for Semgrep supply chain, we have made a lot of progress on making it easier to scan without lock files. In ecosystems like Java, C#, Kotlin, you can't necessarily rely on development teams to maintain an accurate lock file with pinned versions of all of your dependencies. But in order to accurately scan for SCA, you need that list. That list needs to be complete of all of your dependencies. And so Semgrep is taking a unique approach of actually calling out to the package manager for these languages and talking directly to it to generate a full, complete, and accurate dependency tree. This has multiple benefits. One is that your scan results will be more accurate. And the second is you can actually see visualized in the product what those dependency trees look like. So here, for example, we're looking at the dependencies page at the package Lodash, and we can see the different places where Lodash is imported throughout the code. It makes it easier to kind of ballpark whether fixing this upgrade is going to take like intervening in a lot of different places or whether you can just maybe go to one place to fix it, which helps with both prioritization and remediation of transitive dependencies. Improvements to scanning are not just for Semgrep supply chain, they're also across all of our product and at enterprise scale. So this quarter, we GA'd the Semgrep managed scanning feature, which is our feature that automatically syncs, onboards, and scans all of your repositories automatically, which saves you a lot of time in terms of your CI/CD pipelines. So there's no longer back and forth required between DevOps and security. There's no YAML configuration files in every repository. New customers can scan thousands of repositories in literal minutes. It's pretty magical to see it in real life. It's designed to work for monorepos and enterprise scale environments that are complicated and have lots of interactions in them. This feature is already very popular in our customer base, and we're excited to get it in the hands of more folks very soon. Last but definitely not least, the final feature that we're excited to highlight today is full maturity across SCMs for our major Semgrep features. So if you are a user of GitLab, Azure, or Bitbucket, you can now rely on Semgrep to not only natively integrate with that source code manager, but also you will have results from Assistant and the ability to do Semgrep managed scanning to get that out of the box many thousands of scans experience that people love in Semgrep. In terms of learning more about some of these features and keeping up with product overall, You can visit the quarterly release page to get the information about all the features we covered today, and a lot of them that we didn't have time for, but some of which are also amazing and might be particularly solving a problem that's top of mind for you. You can always follow along on our product updates page or our release notes, or go to Semgrep Academy for understanding your security program as a whole, and how Semgrep fits into that. And with that, Jack and I will stay around for questions that folks have. I think people submitted questions through the chat. So Jack will be reading the questions out, and then we'll just kind of both jump in where needed. Thanks so much for being with us today.
All right. First one, I think, should be for you, KK. So how do you see the relationship evolving between developers and security teams?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say that historically, the relationship between security and development has been, well, it depends a lot on the company, of course, but it's always hard, right, for AppSec to keep up with how many more developers there are than security people. It can sometimes feel a little antagonistic or lacking in trust at times. But now that we have a lot of these more automation capabilities with AI and also just other ways to automate workflows, I think that kind of gives security a little bit more of a chance to catch up, and get to a point where the relationship feels more productive and a little bit less of like back and forth of like, do I really have to fix this particular issue? This isn't exploitable, to like, oh, wow, I'm kind of glad that you told me about this vulnerability before I blew up production or caused a security incident for us years down the line. So I'm hoping that AI gets us there. I mean, the flip side of that, of course, is with a lot more vibe coding happening, I think a lot of security people are nervous about, how to sort of like strike the balance of velocity and control. But interested to see how that evolves over time for sure.
Nice. We have another question for you, KK, about reachability. Why is reachability becoming such an important signal in vuln management?
Yeah, I would say reachability is about two things. It's about big number go down, and it's about developers believing that findings are real. And I think that in old school SCA, right, like you would get a finding just because you had a version match for a particular package with a CVE. But I think people have sort of like wisened up over time to, it doesn't really matter if the version matches if you're not calling the function. I think the intuition I like to think about is like, typical package has 300 functions. If I'm using 3 of them, then the probability that I have a vulnerability just because one exists is like 1%. And so I think a lot of people have started to understand that better over time. And when we think about like modern security and moving things forward, we also think about like the developers themselves want to believe that they're being told to fix real things, because any minute they're working on a security thing, they're not working on meeting their deadline. They're not working on the thing that they're like more directly held accountable to, right?
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, maybe I'll take this one. It's about memories. How are developers responding to AI-assisted triage like suggested memories and assistant feedback in PRs? It's a good question. Well, I think part of the design of memories is that developers feel the impact, but they aren't necessarily aware of the feature, if that makes sense. And so what we have seen is developers love using Semgrep because generally when they see a finding in a PR comment, they know that it's real because of all the work we're doing on the back end. Memories just help improve that experience. Most of our developers that use the product aren't even necessarily aware that we have this concept of memories. They just sort of know that, hey, Semgrep allows you to write feedback, and that translates into an improved experience for them overall. So generally speaking, I'd say it's like developers feel the impact and reduce false positives rather than interact with the feature itself. Let's see, we have one more, it looks like here, also about AI and vibe coding. How should security teams think about AI-generated code that we're now responsible for? This is a good question. It's probably the question I get the most right now talking to AppSec teams of all sizes. It's an exciting time, but it's also kind of a scary time, especially for those that are paid to be paranoid and think about what could go wrong. That's why I think it's well, I like to just maybe echo what KK already said about I think AI gives an opportunity for AppSec teams to catch up finally. And so I think it's again, we always hear the phrase like, we're a small AppSec team, we're a small AppSec team. I think with AI, AppSec teams can really magnify their impact without necessarily hiring more people on their team. And then, the flip side of that, I think it's not just an opportunity, but it's essential. Like, in order to keep up with the amount of code that is about to be written, you really need to leverage AI in some kind of way. And that's why I think tools like the MCP server are really excellent. And then, the way I think about it too is like, Semgrep is still a static analysis engine. It is deterministic. The rules are written by humans. And so I think it's kind of an insurance policy, and it's an advocate in the room with your developers when they are doing vibe coding. And it kind of gives you the peace of mind that you're having sort of a deterministic engine with human written rules that are written by security researchers, actually auditing all the code that is being written by AI. So you can kind of sleep at night and feel good about embracing these tools that your developers are already embracing, are probably already deployed in a lot of cases in your organization. So that's how I would think about it. And I think that's it for questions. Well, thanks everyone. This was really fun. Looking forward to the next quarterly release. KK, thanks for doing this. I enjoyed working with you on this webinar.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, everybody.